would you go through this process? Well, maybe you would, I don't know. I have never seen a job interview happen like this, and it is, in my opinion, not professional at all.
This is a volunteer. This is, in so many words, this is.
This position is not volunteer yet. This is a county coordinator position. There's been no discussion of the budget today.
Well, everything up to this point has been volunteer oriented. I'm excited personally as a business owner.
Actually, that's not true.
That somebody would like to step forward.
They used to want a $40,000 position. That's not a true statement.
That somebody would like to step forward with his professional background and offer his help. I mean, I think the county commission could become more professional, actually. I think that there's been times here in the last
And that's up
5
for
or 6
re-election
years, and
every 6 years
this is
and
my
every 2
own
years. we'll get a new
personal,
one.
you know, voice here, but there's been some things that have been pretty embarrassing professionally. But,
Fine.
you know,
Your
that's just
opinion.
that's my point of view. I really think this is a great step forward for the county, and, you know, if this individual has to dry run this position for however long a time he decides to volunteer, I think it's a great foundation at some point down the line.
If you were
when
commissioner,
you as the county
that could
commission
be your vote.
decide
Or not.
to hire someone and pay them, you know, a salary. And I think there's more people in the county like this gentleman out there that are willing to come and do volunteer on big projects. And this is gonna break the ground for that, because we've got a lot of retired people in this county that want help, both in libraries, both in, you know, infrastructure projects and creating jobs here. I mean, you know, we have to get with what's going on in the rest of the state and the rest of this region and the rest of this country. We need to move forward. This is a direction forward.
Are there any other comments?
My response, I came to the initial meeting that you all had about the county coordinator position, and there was a woman there that was talking about her experience in Blacksburg, and it sounds like the county coordinator position from that initial meeting has changed. I'm glad to see a job description. I was concerned about the lack of a job description. But what she described as county coordinator was quite different than what you put on that paper, which is fine. But I'm just saying that the public, where the public was invited initially to come and hear what the county coordinator position was, is quite different than what you've come up with for today. And I just want to respond to the idea that the hospital board, you know, has an assistant. I mean, the hospital board members are not paid at all. So, you know, that I don't think is a good comparison, you know, that they have assistants or that they have people who work for them. And I guess the most concern I have is about saying that this would be a liaison between the commissioners and the public, because as an elected official, you're supposed to be in constant contact with, you know, the public. I agree that it's wonderful to have somebody who's willing to volunteer, and I guess I would just want to say that I think there are, I know, there are people who are volunteering, and that there are plenty of opportunities for people to volunteer. And that's what I had said at that initial meeting. You know, I'm really excited about that, the coordinating efforts of the Create West Virginia, Create Pocahontas aspect, because I think that departmentalizes and allows people to work in their area of their expertise. I appreciate anybody who's willing to volunteer. I think that's, you know, something to be appreciated. My opinion, just as an individual coming before the commission, is just, I say congratulations on developing a job description. I personally would take that as one step forward and think about it. Take into consideration, you know, the notion of, I understand what you're saying about you have a volunteer now, but really, if it's important, it will always be important. If it's valid, it will always be valid. $40,000, in my experience on the Board of Education, says it's really going to be about a $55,000 investment, you know, with insurance and all of those things. And again, I mean, the commissioners are paid that same amount of money, so it does make it sound like it's just a fourth commissioner. But again, I think it's great that you're thinking about what we need as a county. It's good to put pen to paper and make a plan. plan takes time. And again, I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that that initial public meeting sounded very different than this. And I just think that the public does need opportunities to hear the proposal, so.
Thank you.
I'll just, the initial public meeting that we were at was at the library. That really wasn't the starting point of the discussion. There was a commission meeting before that in which members of the community came and expressed their desire for this position. So that commission meeting, if you will, was where I began to form my ideas of what a county coordinator would be. And then we had the meeting at the library with Ms. Dorsett, I believe, that's right? And that was quite a different perspective. That was more of a county planning perspective. But I certainly appreciated that. And between then and now, it's been a continual process in my mind to reconcile the different viewpoints on this position.
Mr. Johnson, I see you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I was one of those who came forward several months ago and appreciated the opportunity to raise the issue of this matter. First, just to state, I'm interested in this in the aspect that maybe was touched upon as a pilot project to kind of find our way in this whole process. It's almost like one of the responsibilities might be to try to see how a coordinator can be developed. But there's also projects, and I'd like to maybe ask how, Marty, you talked earlier on, some of the priorities or something like that of the commission. I'll just throw some of the things that I think I had in mind, maybe Gail, Mike Holstein, and others that came forward. We've got issues that are starting to surface about education. You know, can we have more community college or some way of building the education level, particularly within our adult population. The issue of connectivity and broadband. I know, David, you've worked on that quite a bit, Mike Holstein, but can we strengthen that in the community? I think that would be really helpful for our particular economic situation here, isolated in many other ways. Airports and so forth. Can we at least have super information highway connectivity that's not the bottom or toward the bottom, but toward the top? I'm thinking of issues of quality of life. Are we going to have affordable housing for young families? Can we attract or retain community-minded young families here, or are they going to be priced out? Those are issues that we've got to work on, I think. And but I'd like to hear then you know, small business development. You know, maybe the little startups of some of the agriculture things, incubating. I know the Career Center is going to be starting a little back room business incubator, and those kind of things. Can those be nurtured and strengthened? But I like that, and that's what I guess I somewhat had in mind with the coordinator. That would be, yes, have to work under somebody, and the commission might be the ideal place. But if we can keep it from being too politicized, that you've got to, you know, this person's feeling like in a tug of war between and that person's the rope, you know. But on the other hand, I think that's the logical place, but yet in a sense turn loose into the community to work on with direction on some of these projects I mentioned. So I'd like to hear from you what some of the things you would see the person doing. If it's just doing more county, this building stuff, you know, you know, it doesn't turn me on particularly. But if it's out there, you know, out there in the